Hello everyone and welcome to the Athletic HQ. We are here for our final show of this deadline day. It is 10:30 and we'll be taking you all the way through the deadline at 11 o'clock. And we'll be going all the way through till around about 11:30 and taking in all of the breaking news along the way. And there is plenty still to be done. Let's just run you through some of the headlines of deadline day so far. Cristiano Ronaldo completing his move to Manchester United, Real Madrid signing Eduardo Camavinga from Rennes, Tottenham signing Barcelona's Emerson Royal, Arsenal working on a deal to sign Tomiyasu from Bologna, West Ham signed Nikola Vlasic from CSKA Moscow, Moise Kean went back to Juventus, Odsonne Edouard is now a Crystal Palace player. Those are just some of the headlines. We'll dig into even more of the detail in a moment's time. And I just wanted to let you know who we've got coming up on the show before the deadline at 11. We're going to be speaking or hearing from Adam Crafton. David Ornstein's going to be joining us as well. Peter Rutzler, Dom Fifield, Phil Hay, Simon Johnson, Charlie Eccleshare, Rob Tanner, Chris Woff, Andy Naylor, Nancy Frostick as well. We're giving you the full coverage of all our reporters here at The Athletic. And we will be just trying to work out some of these things that are just pending at the moment and try and nail them down for you in the course of the next hour or so. And thanks very much for joining us, by the way, watching live on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube as well. Amitai Winehouse is here from our news team. It's a long old day. It's a late night, and it's set to be very, very late indeed, because there are quite a few things that are pending, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've still got quite a few deals that we expect to go through. I think sort of the biggest one is probably Antoine Griezmann, who seems to be making what is actually quite a surprising move back to Atletico Madrid, who he left a few years ago from Barcelona. There's also Arsenal's move for Takahiro Tomiyasu. Now, we understood that was sort of contingent on other deals going through. Hector Bellerin's now joined Real Betis. A cryptic tweet, but it seems like it's going to be pretty much. So probably expect to see movement on that before the deadline. But again, just waiting on that one. We've also got Saul to Chelsea. That's a big one. It really, really improves their midfield. I think a lot of Chelsea fans are very excited about that. And the other one to keep an eye on is a player I really like is Salomon Rondon to Everton. Rafa Benitez really likes him. We think there's a chance that still happens, but again, sort of wait and see over the next half an hour or so.
And in terms of the deals that are that have really sort of stood out today for you, what are the ones that sort of that you would stick a flag in?
It's been quite an interesting day. I think Emerson Royal to Spurs is a big one. I think that they've managed to improve their right back options. You know, Aurier, who we have sort of heard in the last sort of half an hour could potentially leave Spurs as a result of this deal going through. And Matt Doherty, not like the best options in the world for a top six side. So Royal improves them. And then also Dan James to Leeds. That's one that stands out to me. Surprise move maybe started, I think, 2 of the 3 games at the start of the season for Man U, now moved clubs. But the big one really is Griezmann. I think, you know, we're talking about an elite player making a move on deadline day, not mooted at any stage, leaving a big Spanish side for another big Spanish side. Improves Atletico, makes them maybe Champions League contenders. Yeah, Griezmann's the obvious one for me.
Yeah, it is a massive deal, and it's pretty much, as we understand it, going to happen and going to be confirmed relatively soon. Obviously, that's a big deal that we know is going to happen. One of the deals that we were thinking might happen on deadline day, and it involved another Spanish club in Real Madrid, not Atletico, Real Madrid, and potentially getting hold of Kylian Mbappe. That is not happening. And Adam Crafton, who's been following this story all the way through, just sent us this report just before we came on air, just to wrap up the Mbappe news today.
After a summer where it looks for a long time like Kylian Mbappe was going to sign for Real Madrid, in the end, he's actually stayed at Paris Saint-Germain. Real Madrid made, we believe, up to 3 different offers, 160 million euros, 180 million euros, and then finally going beyond 200 million. But PSG decided they didn't want to sell in this window. They now risk losing him for 3 next summer when his contract is up, but they still remain hopeful that they may yet be able to renegotiate with Mbappe and extend his contract.
Yeah, so that's Adam Crafton just bringing us up to speed with what happened or didn't happen with Kylian Mbappe, but it's obviously going to have a knock-on effect on what's going to happen in the next transfer window when effectively Kylian Mbappe can get the deal sorted, being able to speak to other clubs and get it sorted with 6 months to go of his contract. We can now just bring in to the conversation David Ornstein, who has been with us all the way through. David, thank you very much for joining us. It's a very busy time. We've got 25 minutes until the deadline is reached here in the UK. What is standing out for you at the moment? What's sort of pending for you?
Well, I think we need to look at Antoine Griezmann. I've been on TV on and off, and so I don't know the exact status of that. But I think that's going to be a really big seismic transfer for the market because it's going to have repercussions. Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, the flow of money, the potential rebirth of Barcelona with players who you wouldn't necessarily associate them with. So that's fascinating. In terms of the domestic market, I think most clubs have got their house in order, which is something we talked about earlier. And it's just about getting deals over the line now. There will be a few deal sheets submitted. There will be clubs, players, agents, representatives, family members scrambling around now. We'll have taxis on hold. We'll have planes flying around, helicopters. I'm not sure the fax machines are used anymore, but there will be a few late ones, but nothing spectacular this year, which shows that clubs have prepared relatively well.
And just one, as we sort of just grab you, as you are very, very busy. I like the look of that studio in the background. It looks quite familiar, actually. I recognise that. In terms of the transfer window as a whole, what's the one that really sticks out for you?
Well, Cristiano Ronaldo is the obvious one, but I think a lot of people have forgotten somehow Jack Grealish, the first £100 million transfer within the Premier League. It's been overshadowed by Messi, Ronaldo, the Harry Kane saga, various other situations, Varane, Sancho, even the likes of Ben White, because there was so much conversation around it. But I like Jack Grealish as a player immensely, and I really like that signing. He's hit the ground running for Manchester United. There was such a good backstory that you can read in depth on The Athletic. And I'm not just saying that to plug it. It's just fascinating how the deal came about, the effective use of a release clause, Aston Villa and their strong stance as wealthy owners, not even wanting to accept that, but eventually doing so and then using the money to rebuild. So I'm going to pick Jack Grealish, Adam.
And one quick one on Arsenal. In a sentence, can you sum up the business that's been done in and out?
I think the business in and out has been good, but the full effect and sort of manifestation of how good will not be seen for a fair while to come, because these are all pretty much signings for the future. The outgoings, well, we'll judge once we see how Arsenal cope without them. And I think people won't want to hear this, but the fans are going to have to stay patient. That's not something that's welcome when Arsenal are sitting bottom of the table. The club believe in a long-term project, for right or for wrong. They believe in Mikel Arteta for the time being. And I'm really fascinated to see how it pans out, because I think individually, if you take the finances out of it, Arsenal have made some really impressive signings. I was about to say Manchester City. They wouldn't mind being Manchester City right now, and certainly after that display on Saturday at the Etihad Stadium.
Absolutely. David, thank you very much indeed. If we can catch up with you later on, we will. But if not, thank you very much for all your help on deadline day. And as always, for breaking so much news here on The Athletic. Take care. Thank you very much. Let's just bring in Peter Rutzler, who is here in the studio for us. Peter, hi.
Hello.
It's late, isn't it? What time is it? 39 minutes past 10. And we can sort of have a little bit of a chat about something that is also pending, which we're sort of having a look at because it involves the two clubs that we cover, Watford, Fulham, and an interesting late night deal sheet, not fiasco, but fun time, I suppose, that is sort of evolving at the moment. Just sort of tell us exactly what's going on.
Yeah, so Fulham are in the market to try and replace Andre Frank Anguissa, who left today for Napoli on loan with a buy option. He was a player I think most sort of expected to go during this window. On the opening day of the season, he wasn't involved against Middlesbrough. with that in mind, with the idea that he would go. So that finally was confirmed this afternoon, and Fulham are now searching for a replacement midfielder. I think for most of the summer, most assumed that Matt Grimes would be the man that would come in. There was some talk at the start of the window, but it never progressed. Over the weekend, Fulham made a bid. Today, they made another bid that was rejected. Both of them have been rejected by Swansea. And then this evening, we broke that Fulham are in talks with Nathaniel Chalobah at Watford and Domingos Quina, another midfielder at Watford. It's been interesting as we get close to the deadline. It's been difficult to sort of completely rule out one from the other. We know that Chalobah and Quina are still in talks. We've been definitely trying to just shut down Grimes. Is it completely dead? Are Fulham going to come back in very late on? But yeah, as we get closer to the deadline, it should get a little clearer. But they leave it late, Fulham. This is not uncharted territory for them.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because obviously Watford have brought in a fair amount of players in midfield, experienced players, and Nathaniel Chalobah only has 1 year left on his contract. As I understand it, a permanent deal is being discussed, but a loan deal is also still on the table. And for Domingos Quina, he has also 1 year left on his contract, but there is an option for Watford to extend. So it'll be interesting to see how this one actually falls down. In terms of, when we're expecting things to sort of develop, I suppose it's sort of any minute now. This is deal sheet territory, isn't it?
Definitely. We're sort of crunch time. I think very, very soon, actually, we should find out which way this is going to go with Fulham, particularly on that midfield position. Anyway, they were looking for a right back as well. Marco Silva said after Kenny Teta picked up an injury that they would be looking to see if they could replace him with someone of a similar profile. Cyrus Christie is a defender who's been trying to leave. He's available on a free. Nothing's really materialised yet that we're aware of. So maybe that won't happen, but we'll see as it gets closer. But, last summer, last January, there's always something involving Fulham. So I wouldn't rule out a surprise either, knowing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, I'll let you scuttle off. If anything happens, just drop me a WhatsApp and we'll get it on.
I think I already have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and that may well have a knock-on effect on what Watford do in the final closing stages. And let me just mention to you, I mean, obviously I've said it a couple of times about this deal sheet. If you're not familiar with it, clubs sometimes conclude deals at the last minute. It's not always easy for them to get everything completed and sent over to the Premier League in time. So the deal sheet allows a club to confirm that a deal has been reached in order to allow for additional time to submit the remaining documentation. For an 11 o'clock deadline, the deal sheet can't be used until 9 o'clock, and then it needs to arrive fully completed before the transfer window closes. So in 17 minutes time, if clubs want to get things done, they need to get at least this initial deal sheet through. And then once it arrives, they then have another 2 hours until 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, yep, 1 o'clock in the morning, in which to submit all of the full paperwork. If it is an international transfer, that deadline is not 1 o'clock, it is midnight. So look out for that, and we'll be finding out whether there are any deal sheets that have been submitted to the Premier League a little bit later on in 17 minutes' time. The clock is ticking. I haven't said that for a while. Right. Okay. Let's now talk to Dominic Fifield, who joins us on the line. Seems like a long time ago, Dom, that we were talking about the business that Crystal Palace were going to do today. We were talking about Odsonne Edouard, and maybe he might arrive from Celtic. He finally has. And you know what? I'm going to say this out loud. I reckon clubs could get these deals done if they weren't messing around with all these announcement videos. Just forget them, take a picture alongside someone, get it signed, and get the news out there and stop messing around with all these videos.
It's quite a good video, though, isn't it? That one. It's not bad, that one. That's as videos goes, that's not too bad. Going around Soho, round the corner from Palace's office into the record stores around there, I think that's not bad at all. Quite a bit of thought's been put into that.
Yeah, a lot of thought, but just get it done, get it out there. Anyway, I digress. In terms of what it actually means for Crystal Palace, how important is it that he's now in the door and buying records?
It's significant. They needed more firepower. That's the bottom line. And this is a player that scored 80 odd goals for Celtic across 4 seasons. A player of some pedigree, still young, fits the profile at 23, and it's a decent price as well. Palace have tracked him for a long time, dating back to the tail end of 2019, and I think they always feared that the asking price that Celtic would want was around the £30 million mark, and now he's walked in the door for £14 million. I think that fee was actually agreed last night, which is going to make you even more angry, presumably. It was only the medical this morning that dragged through to lunchtime, and then he was into the offices down at Soho to sign the deal this afternoon. So I think Palace will be satisfied. Seven incoming transfers this window. They set themselves a very difficult task of replacing 10 experienced players who are out of contract and departed the Selhurst Park in the summer. And they brought in 7 young, hungry players of potential, players of some pedigree, exciting players as well. So fingers crossed, things will work out. They'll hit the ground running, and Palace will make a mark this season.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how Patrick Vieira uses his new charges. Dom, we will leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. I'll let you go and watch the reruns of that bloody video again that's kept us waiting about Odsonne Edouard. But yes, it is a good video. Well done. Dom, take care. Thank you very much indeed. Right, where are we going next? Because we have, 14 minutes to go until the deadline at 11 o'clock. It's been a good day for Leeds United, hasn't it? They have finally got their man, 2.5 years waiting for him to arrive after that aborted move from Swansea. Dan James is now a Leeds United player, and Phil Hay has had a busy day for a couple of different reasons. Phil.
Hello guys, and apologies for the backdrop. Just been on the Prostate Cancer UK walk today with Jeff Stelling from Harrogate to Elland Road, although I must confess I only did the last few miles myself. Transfer wise, it's been fairly busy at Leeds today. Daniel James is in the door finally, £25 million paid to Manchester United for him. The big outgoing deal today looks like being held at Costa to Valencia before the deadline tonight. Costa's future was always dependent on another winger coming in, and now that James is here, he really is surplus to requirements and will move on loan. Some other smaller scale deals as well, like Robbie Gott's heading to Barrow, and Bryce Hosanna leaving the club as well. But Daniel James, the big news for Leeds today.
That's Phil Hay there, covering everything Leeds United for us. Just to confirm that deal for Arsenal that has now gone through for Takahiro Tomiyasu from Bologna in a deal worth £16 million plus bonuses. David Ornstein has brought us that news. He's signed a 4-year deal, completed his medical in Bologna on Tuesday. The deal was dependent on other player movements at the club before the deadline on Tuesday evening, which has now, as we know, seen Hector Bellerin move to Real Betis after he completed his medical in London before flying to Spain. Now, if you want to keep tabs on exactly what's going on The Athletic right now, just head on to theathletic.com and you'll find the transfer news live blog, which is a great way of just sort of keeping track of exactly what's happening right now. And you can then track back and see what happened a little bit earlier on. Just to remind you that about that news on Serge Aurier as well, which is interesting. They're both now, Serge Aurier and Tottenham, in talks over terminating his contract. He's still got a year left on his deal. But as Charlie Eccleshare has written, despite Spurs' best efforts, they were unable to sell him this summer. Lille and Genoa were options, but a move to either has not materialised. So they're now just having a look to see what can be done. Now, another interesting line which has just broken from Stu James, and it centres on something that we were talking about with Peter Rutzler a few moments ago. Matt Grimes, who was one of the players that potentially was going to go to Fulham, along with Watford's Nathaniel Shalabar and Domingos Quina. Well, Matt Grimes, we understand now, is going to be staying at Swansea after Fulham had several bids rejected for the midfielder. He's got less than a year remaining on his contract. He's been on Fulham's radar for most of the summer. And there you go. Matt Grimes is staying at Swansea City. So then that pushes forward the likelihood that both Nathaniel Shalabar and Domingos Quina will be joining Fulham and leaving Watford. And it'll be fascinating to see what happens if Watford will try and bring some players in to replace those two who have left, even though they have brought in a few other players as well. Right, let's move on to Chelsea. Simon Johnston is on the line for us. Sorry, I had to just get that news in first, Simon. It's about Watford. I had to. We've got 10 minutes before the deadline. Chelsea's business has been obviously exceptional. Life being a Chelsea fan at the moment is exceptional. Lukaku was great, but there is still another one that we're waiting confirmation of. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all Niguez, but I don't think Chelsea fans have any reason to worry that the deal's been agreed. A loan for a season with an option to buy worth just over £30 million. And I think this is a more significant deal over the line than Jules Koundé. I know there's a lot of fans that are disappointed that the Jules Koundé move broke down, but in terms of what sort of position Chelsea needed the most to fill in this last few days of the window, and as I wrote after the game against Liverpool on Saturday, it was the midfielder situation, because there's only three midfielders, or there were only three midfielders, and Saul Niguez comes in and makes a healthy quartet to add to the competition with Conte, Jorginho and Kovacic. And I think it just makes Chelsea's squad very formidable and makes their chances of competing on all four fronts, well, actually more than four fronts because of the FIFA Club World Cup as well, can't forget that, a lot stronger.
And in terms of, overall, the business that Chelsea have done, it looks pretty sort of flawless once again. They like to get things done, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, flawless. There's a few things that you sort of like raise question marks. There's quite a few of the, how can I put it politely, the players that they've spent a lot of money on in the past that haven't worked out, and they just can't get them out the club on a permanent basis. They got a few out. They got Zappacosta, for example. He's gone. Emerson's got a loan with an option to buy, etc. But there's still Bakayoko 2-year loan with a contract and perhaps an option to buy. There's still this sort of dead wood that they're struggling to shift. Baba Rahman's gone on loan. Danny Drinkwater's gone on loan. What's been very interesting about this window is it's been the kids that have generated most of the transfer revenue. But it has made that Chelsea's net spend, unlike last year, where, of course, they spent an absolute fortune, brought very little money in, this time they've actually made a profit, which is pretty impressive when you think that they've actually made the squad stronger.
Okay, Simon, we will leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. If anything does crop up, positively or negatively with Niguez, then do let us know, and you'll be able to read the words of Simon Johnston on The Athletic, as always. Of course, now, Peter Rutzler's just thrust himself into the studio. He looks like he means business, or he's just being very rude, and he doesn't realise that we're on air. What's going on, Peter? We are live. What's up? Go on, talk to me quickly.
Stu James has just reported that Matt Grimes is staying.
Yes, we've got that. Perfect. Thank you very much. We were just talking about the Matt Grimes news a few moments ago. You see, this is good about being in the newsroom. People just dance in and say, which is good, which is what we want. This is all good. Right, let's just quickly get up to speed with what's happened at Tottenham today. Obviously, we were talking about the Serge Aurier news, which has sort of broken in the last few minutes. But one deal, significant deal, which has had an impact on Aurier, has happened a little bit earlier on. And Charlie Eccleshare can just bring us up to speed with that.
So the big news on deadline day for Tottenham is the signing of right back Emerson Royal from Barcelona for about 30 million euros, including add-ons. I think some Spurs fans were hoping there might be a bit more, maybe a backup striker for Harry Kane coming in, possibly even a central midfielder, but it is just the right back Royal who comes in, and it's an exciting signing. This is a guy who offers quite a lot from an attacking and defensive perspective and should give Spurs another dimension.
Well, there you go. Moodily lit Charlie Eccleshare there, just bringing us some news on deadline day. Charlie, thank you very much indeed. Right, how long have we got? 6 minutes until the deadline, 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's deal with Leicester City before 11 o'clock. It has been busy. I remember Rob popped up early doors this morning on our first live show here at the Athletic HQ. and said it was going to be busy, and it was indeed. Has it delivered enough, Rob?
I was expecting a bit more, to be honest, Adam, but they've got the winger in that they wanted. Adam Leventhal has come in on loan with a view to a permanent transfer as well. I mean, they're really happy with the business they've done in this window. They seem to have covered a lot of the positions that needed strengthening. They've spent a bit of money as well. There's been a few departures as well, with Dennis Pratt going to Torino on the back of Rashid Gazelle and Sawab moving out of the club as well. We were expecting Hamza Chowdhury to go out on loan to Newcastle, but that deal hasn't happened. That's fallen through. So, but Lookman, it's going to be an interesting one to see how he fits in.
What is it with Hamza Chowdhury and deals falling down on deadline day? Why does it keep on happening?
It's twice now with Newcastle, isn't it, really? I mean, I know Steve Bruce is really keen on him, but I don't know. There must be forces afoot at Newcastle that they can't get this deal done. It's very strange, and Hamza needs to play some games. He's a young kid making his way in the game, and he needs some regular football.
And just a final point, in terms of the transfer window as a whole, do you think Brendan Rodgers will be thinking, we can be challenging once again in the top sort of echelon of the table?
Oh yeah, he definitely wanted to strengthen and add more quality, more strength in depth. That was an Achilles heel. The injuries have really hit them hard start of this season. So if they start to clear up, I think he'll be really pleased with the additions he's managed to bring in.
Okay, Rob, thank you very much indeed. If anything else pops up, do check in with us, and we'll get you back on air. Just to let you know, we have 4 minutes to go until the deadline is reached on this concluding day of the summer transfer window. Let me just run you through some of the headlines which are still breaking at the moment. That has now been confirmed by Tottenham, and Sergio Aurier's contract has been mutually terminated. That has been now sorted and confirmed. A few other little deals going on. Sheffield United teenager Daniel Jebison has joined Burton Albion on loan. That's been confirmed. We brought you the news about Arsenal and the Tomiyasu signing a couple of moments ago. And some of the big headlines of the day: the pending transfer of Antoine Griezmann. We're expecting that to be confirmed a little bit later on, heading back to Atletico Madrid from Barcelona. That may well have an impact on Barcelona, bringing in another player as well. Cristiano Ronaldo has completed his move to Manchester United. That was confirmed this morning. Real Madrid have signed Eduardo Camavinga from Rennes in a 6-year deal. Tottenham, as we were talking about a few moments ago, have signed Barcelona's Emerson Royal in a £25.8 million deal. West Ham signed Nikola Vlasic, the former Everton midfielder, and there was a kickback for Everton as well, with a sell-on clause in that from CSKA Moscow, £25.7 million deal. Everton's Moise Kean has gone back to Italy. He's back at Juventus on a loan move. And as we discussed, and I had a little bit of a few japes, let's call them, with Dom Fifield about Odsonne Edouard. He has now joined Crystal Palace from Celtic ahead of a £14 million move. I wanted to just keep you up to date with the deal that is pending away from Watford. Nathaniel Chalobah, as we understand it, is edging ever closer to a move back into the Championship. He's just come from the Championship with Watford, newly promoted. And as I understand it, that deal is nearly done for Nathaniel Chalobah to go to Fulham. And also Domingos Quina as well, potentially joining Nathaniel Chalobah, who's actually his best mate. So they're literally going hand in hand if it gets done. And the key thing is, it needs to get done in terms of the paperwork by 11 o'clock, because you have to get your deal sheet in. So we will see if those deals are ones that are done in time. We have, a minute and a half to go. And Holly Percival has just slid in to the room by magic, as if by magic, ahead of the deadline from the news team. Things have been dropping, in the last couple of moments, and it's going to continue. It's going to be a busy night beyond this. We've got a minute and 10 seconds to go until the deadline.
Yeah, this sofa is quite difficult to sit on without it squeaking slightly, so you're worried that everyone's going to hear you approach. The last couple of minutes have been really hectic for us. You've just gone through all the main headlines that we've just published. I've had to quickly run across to make sure that I was here on time. I didn't come busting in like Peter Rutzler just did, but I'm here nonetheless, ready for the end of the deadline. It's exciting. There's hopefully a few more things still to come in the next hour or so.
And we have now hit the deadline, as I understand it. That's what my clock says. It's 11 o'clock, and the transfer window is officially closed for this summer. There are cheers and yelps.
Do we get the confetti
in the background?
Cannons?
We should really, working? Yeah, we should have little t-shirt guns or confetti guns
that would be great.
and all that sort of stuff. The budget hasn't got that far, unfortunately. It is disappointing.
It's all gone on these sofas.
Yes, No, it's very comfortable. All day it's been really comfortable. So that is it for this summer's transfer window. And what's important to point out, obviously, we will keep you posted with what's going to happen from now through until maybe 1 o'clock by the time we hear what's happened with those deal sheets that are in and the deals that haven't been done quite yet. But then all the sort of follow-up to the transfer window, and it's nicely placed, isn't it, in an international break where people will still want to read about their club even though the international football is going on.
Yes, for sure. I mean, Ronaldo is probably the perfect example. I'm sure United will do a nice video of him returning to the stadium that will likely come out in the next week or so. So I'm sure United fans will be very excited to see that. Will it be up to Crystal Palace's standards of Edouard's video? We don't know, but I'm sure that'll be quite fun content to see. And I think just football fans in general will be excited to see Ronaldo walk out onto Old Trafford. So I think those kind of things will be exciting to watch. And like I said, Chelsea potentially announcing Saul whenever that may be. It seems very likely that it is done. So it's exciting to see more players come in, even though it's weird that now that's it, deal's done. Yeah, and we are understanding that there are deals that have just dropped in the last few moments. I would have thought some clubs will be just quite happy to just wait until right before the deadline and just go, bosh, we had it done, but it has been sort of we just thought we'd add a little bit of suspense to the whole thing. We understand that the Salomon Rondon deal to Everton is now done. I'm not sure if it's been officially announced as yet. 11 p.m. It has been announced. Right, so it should be done. Okay, cool. It should hopefully be on the website. If not, it's loading in now. It's there right now, is what I'm being told. Fine. Behind the scenes. Okay, so it is done. It's dusted. So Salomon Rondon is back playing Premier League football once again. Previously at West Brom, at Newcastle as well. So that is the signing that Everton wanted to do as backup for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So yeah, that is a good deal that has been done. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to let you head off. Yes. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for hosting all four of these. No problem. It's been a long day for you. It has indeed, but it's deadline day. It's deadline day. You've got to do it, haven't you? You've got to do it. Right. You head off, and if anything else happens, I'll run in. Just run in. Yeah. And let us know. Yeah, Griezmann. That's all you'll hear all the way down the hallway. Griezmann! All the way down. Way, on a knee slide, I want to see. That'd be fantastic. These floors are hard. Yeah, they are. A bit abrasive. Right, Holly, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adam. Indeed. Now, I did mention, you can head off. It's fine. It's fine. It's a live studio. No problem. No problem at all. Now, I mentioned Salomon Rondon there, and that deal done to Everton. It's a big deal, and he's a striker that can score goals. And he scored goals at Newcastle previously, and he was scoring goals whilst he was under the charge of Rafa Benitez. Now he's back under the charge of Rafa Benitez at Goodison Park. Chris Woff, our Newcastle reporter, joins us now. Chris, we'll come on to Newcastle's transfer window as a whole, but can you just give us, first of all, a little bit of insight into how well Salomon Rondon has the potential to do at Goodison Park?
This feels like another kick for Newcastle fans who are already deflated enough after today. But I think Rondon makes a lot of sense. He's a very direct striker. He's very experienced at Newcastle. He became the focal point. And Rafa Benitez likes to play a direct style. He likes to have a target man centre forward. And for someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin to really learn from, I think a lot of Newcastle fans look back at sort of 2 years ago and think, signing Joe Linton, why didn't they keep Rondon? And he could have sort of learned from from Rondon, Joe Linton himself. So I think for Everton, I think it makes a lot of sense, and Rafa Benitez knows them well. They've got a really good relationship, and I think given the lack of funds that Rafa Benitez has had, it looks like their transfer business has been very good, certainly compared to Newcastle's.
Yeah, it's a 2-year deal, 31-year-old, and he is now an Everton player. Yeah, let's deal with the Newcastle news, because I would have thought that there would have been a lot of Newcastle fans sat at home, fingers crossed, maybe just simply with false hope. Is that a fair reflection? Because often the disappointment can come for Newcastle fans, especially at the moment.
Yeah, I think that you can see it as false hope to a certain degree. I mean, I think a lot of Newcastle fans this morning didn't expect anything to happen, and then there were positive noises. Certainly first thing this morning, Steve Bruce expected at least one arrival. I think at one stage he thought there might have even been two. He wanted a centre-back, and he wanted particularly a midfielder. Obviously Hamza Chowdhury of Leicester City, Rob Tanner was on just before explaining that fell through, and that, I think that was real frustration for Steve Bruce. He wanted the deal to happen. The player wanted the deal to happen. I think Leicester were quite keen for the deal to happen, really, and Newcastle couldn't get it sorted. I think there was a couple of reasons for that. A, they needed to move player on, which they failed to do. There was a chance Emil Kraft could have gone to Fulham, but he didn't want to go down to the Championship, and so they couldn't make room in the squad. But also Newcastle, there was issues with wages and sort of loan fees, and they had that all the way through the window. And so in the end, Newcastle actually end this window pretty much in where the position they were at the end of last season. They've actually lost Andy Carroll and Christian Atsu, but they've got Joe Willock in permanently, which is a positive, and it was a deal I don't think at the start of the window we thought they could do on a permanent basis. But in terms of other areas of the field where they definitely do look weak, certainly in defence and midfield, but also you could argue if Sam Maximan or Wilson, who regularly get injured, are out for any period, they're going to struggle up front as well. So I'm afraid that most areas of the pitch, Newcastle are looking weak, and it just feels like Groundhog Day for Newcastle fans. There's just frustration that the club is just stagnating. There is no real progress, and the squad doesn't really improve.
Yeah, and there's no real sort of end in sight at the moment, is there? With the situation with the takeover just sort of distant over the horizon as well. So, I mean, how do you think Steve Bruce will manage this situation already under pressure, and how will the players within that squad be feeling? And what's the mood like within that squad and between the manager and the players at the moment, from your understanding?
Before Joe Willock signed, I think there was a lot of concern, particularly from players like Alan Saint-Maximin and Isaac Hayden and Martin Dubravka, players who'd signed long-term contracts on the basis that Newcastle were going to make strong signings. They hadn't done that. Willock arriving gave everyone a bit of a boost, but I think that there's still frustration within the squad that they all want to improve, and they don't want to be labelled as this team who merely every year is just about survival, which is the way it's seen at Newcastle. But that, from the hierarchy, that's very much the impression that's given out, that survival is just good enough, and Steve Bruce has delivered that over the last couple of years. He talks about wanting to progress, but I think that he realises now how difficult that is when he doesn't have the resources there. He's already under immense pressure, as you say. Hasn't won any of his opening 4 games in all competitions. Was some anti-Bruce chance at the last home game. He desperately needs a positive result. He needs to find a way to get Newcastle some points on the board, but they've got Man United away for probably Cristiano Ronaldo's second debut straight after the international break. So I think things may get worse before they get better for Newcastle United, unfortunately.
Oh dear, Chris. Oh dear, oh dear. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good. I'm trying to sort of think of a silver lining. Am I missing something? Is there any silver lining there?
I don't think there's a mass. I can't pretend to Newcastle fans that it's all going to suddenly get better. But I do think if they keep Callum Wilson and Alan Saint-Maximin fit, I think that they should be all right in terms of not getting relegated. But Wilson's already got a bit of a thigh injury, so I have to hope that that's not serious. But if they can keep them fit, then I think that they have enough to avoid relegation. But unfortunately, it's very much just that's all that it ever seems to be at Newcastle. So yes, no massive positives, but I still think that Newcastle will be all right. Just.
Okay, Chris. But good news for Everton, meanwhile, with Salomon Rondon. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, Chris, for all your sterling work throughout the transfer window. And if you want to read the words of Chris Woff, also George Colkin, of course, up in Newcastle, all you need to do is check in with The Athletic, theathletic.com. And as you can see at the bottom of your screen, this is a live show, deadline day. And there is just a little bit of a favour for you there. If it is theathletic.com/live show, click on that. And I think that will help you on your way to becoming an Athletic subscriber. Now, we are obviously waiting for news on so many things that haven't been fully ratified and confirmed as yet today. We are beyond the deadline, which closed at 11 o'clock. We're waiting for confirmation of Sol Niguez going to Chelsea, and also Antoine Griezmann going back to his former side, Atletico Madrid. Slightly lower down, maybe less important, but very important to the teams involved. We're waiting for those deal sheets to go in, and confirmation that it has actually gone in for two departures from Watford, Nathaniel Chalobah and Domingos Quina, heading to Fulham potentially. It was maybe going to be Matt Grimes heading from Swansea to fellow Championship side Fulham, but we now understand that he is going to be staying at Swansea. We will be looking at an interesting deal in the Football League in a moment's time with Nancy Frostick, which really stuck out today. The return of a player who had some troubles, went away, is now coming back and hoping to do better. We'll tell you all about him in a moment's time. But one team who started the season pretty well are Brighton and Hove Albion. And they have also had a very good deadline day. They've got the business done that they wanted to get done. And we can just sort of wrap up the business that Brighton have done with our dedicated reporter, Andy Naylor.
Andy Naylor here, wrapping up the window from a Brighton perspective from the sunny south coast. Well, at least it was sunny earlier. Marc Cucurella, the Getafe left-back, £15 million, 5-year deal, done. Abdallah Sima, Slavia Prague forward, only 20, Senegal international, done for around about £6 million. And he's gone straight out on loan to Stoke. So speaking as a Stoke fan, that's Sima at one end of the pitch and Ostigard at the other from Brighton. What's not to like? Going in the opposite direction, Rida Kadra, 20-year-old German winger, has joined his teammate Jan-Paul van Heck at Blackburn Rovers on loan for the season. And that's about it for Brighton. Not expecting any more incomings. There might be one or two other bits and pieces of younger players outgoing before the 11 p.m. deadline.
That was Andy Naylor speaking before the 11 o'clock deadline, but you get the gist of Brighton's business, and Graham Potter will be able to work with the players that have now been brought in. I'm looking forward to the chant for Mr. Cucurella. It should be good, should be vibrant. Just one piece of news from Phil Hay, who we were hearing from a little bit earlier on. Obviously, the big deal for Leeds United was Dan James coming in from Manchester United for £25 million. Manchester United making a profit on a player, which isn't necessarily the thing that they normally do. And our reporter Laurie Whitwell was saying that I think it's in the top 5 transfer fees received by Manchester United for a player. So they will be happy with that. It has had a knock-on effect in terms of departures. And Phil Hay just tweeting in the last few moments, just saying that he's awaiting confirmation, but it does sound like Helder Costa to Valencia has crossed the line successfully. Hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but that has now developed as far as Phil Hay is concerned, and you can keep posted on everything that Phil Hay does. Dropped a really good piece, by the way, with Adam Crafton, who we heard on the show a little bit earlier on about that Dan James move, just digging into the detail of how long that deal has needed to come to fruition after previously he was going to sign from Swansea. He was there in his E17 hoodie and jacket, and it was all very cold and all that malarkey, but eventually he has now got the deal done. Now, Amitai Winehouse has rejoined us in the studio. We're 14 minutes beyond the 11 o'clock deadline. Amitai from the news team here at The Athletic. In terms of things that are bubbling, Are there things that you can just give us a clue as, sort of just coming up, maybe just coming to fruition?
Yeah. So our understanding is sort of a deal that's quite big for fans of Swansea is they're about to sign Michael Obafemi from Southampton.
Okay.
That should be announced right now, actually.
Okay.
And we're still waiting on the latest on Saul, but again, that sounds like it'll be done. It's a weird situation this after the deadline, isn't it? I think deals can be completed sort of over the next hour or so.
Yeah.
They just need to notify leagues and keep them aware of things. But yeah, that should still be done. There's no reason to think it won't be. In terms of other things that are going on, Sheffield United have just signed Robin Olsen on loan from Roma for the season. They definitely needed a goalkeeper. And yeah, I think that's relatively speaking it. Not masses still going on, but yeah, that's pretty much the situation as it stands.
Perfect. Amatai, that's brilliant. I'll let you get back to doing what you do best. Oh no, that was brilliant, by the way. I'm not saying that you can't do this, but doing what you are paid to do. And I don't want to take you away from your desk too much.
No, I'll run back now.
Yeah, run. Go. Right. Yeah. On that Michael Obafemi news joining Swansea that Amatai just brought us there, it literally just dropped on the Athletic. It's almost as if he planned it. It was very, very good indeed. Yeah, he's left Southampton to join Swansea. It's a permanent deal, and it could total £2 million. He's completed his medical, agreed personal terms late this evening. The deal, the structure is that Swansea will pay Southampton an initial £1.5 million, although that figure will rise to £2 million if certain add-ons are met. Right. We now can rejoin David Ornstein, who has got another window of opportunity to speak to us very kindly as we sort of head towards the end of this Athletic Deadline Day show. David, thanks very much for joining us. We've gone beyond the deadline now. Does the weight start to slip away from the shoulders at this early stage after the deadline has been passed?
The weight never slips away from the shoulders. And if you've experienced this industry like we have, Adam, the weight can go in other places as well if you don't look after yourself. So it's going to be a lot of exercise and rest, eating and drinking well after this window is fully out of the way. We've still got a little bit more time to go to wrap everything up, but it's been a really enjoyable window and quite an interesting one because, of course, the pandemic is into its second year, and we felt that it was going to be a depressed market like it was in the summer of 2020. But actually, a lot of business did get done. Not all of it was at the highest level in terms of the finances, but what did get done at the highest level was done for extreme money, or at least proposed extreme money in the case of Kylian Mbappe that didn't materialise, Harry Kane as well. But then you've got Jack Grealish and some of the other deals just below that bracket that sort of surprised a lot of us, and then a late flurry on deadline day which kept us busy. So yeah, it's a market to reflect on quite positively, I think, but certain club fans won't share that feeling.
Yeah, well, we spoke to Chris Waugh a few moments ago, and Newcastle fans are not happy at all. Who would you say are the sort of the big winners of this transfer window?
Ooh, I'm going to be controversial here, and Liverpool fans won't like me saying this. I really like the way they've gone about their business in a very responsible manner. They brought in a centre-half, which they needed in Konate before the window had even opened. We broke that story on The Athletic. And then they embarked upon a different process, retaining what they had. I've just said it on TV, to have is to hold, to really understand that the players that you've got at your disposal are arguably better than you can get from elsewhere. And there's no point just spending for the sake of it. So their renewals are spectacular. For the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Alisson, Virgil van Dijk, Jordan Henderson, Fabinho. And I think they're really well set. They probably could have done with maybe an extra outfield addition, but they've still got their front three. And if they can fire with Diogo Jota in there as well, making it 4, then most clubs would like to be in their position. They can look to address it in January if needed, and then go again in the summer of 2022. What's going to happen with the Mo Salah contract? It's a really interesting conversation. But crucially, they've got a rejuvenated Jurgen Klopp who looks fresh. Look into his eyes. He looks really hungry again. Sorry, that sounded a bit weird, didn't it? And he had a tough year personally and professionally. Trying to retain the Premier League title, it didn't go to plan. losing his mother during the pandemic, not being able to travel back to Germany like he used to. But there's something like he's got the bit between his teeth again. And I think write off Liverpool at your peril. So I'm purposefully giving you a sort of twisted answer, but I quite like it.
Absolutely. We like twisted answers. That's what it's all about. One final question, because we are waiting for, one of the most significant deals of transfer deadline day to be concluded, with Griezmann going to Atletico Madrid. Just the situation at Barcelona, really, obviously losing Lionel Messi, losing Griezmann, from almost one of the, not necessarily the most stable clubs, but one of the most sort of respected and almost, I don't know, look complete. They look like they knew what they were doing, heading in the right direction. It's completely changed now, hasn't it?
Which club? Barcelona?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest concerns in world football at the moment. This is a bastion of success and, class and good grace, and what's happened there really under the previous ownership regime is awful. And the debts they're racking up would put most businesses or football clubs out of business. They would be bankrupt, and they have huge debts that they need to arrest. They're trying to succeed on the pitch with now a team that is unrecognizable from the sort of teams they would put out in the past, their former glories. They're bringing in some players you wouldn't associate with the likes of Barcelona. And it's a really concerning time. Huge job on the hands of Ronald Koeman. But for those of us who have seen Barcelona in their peak, we do wish them and their supporters well and hope that they can bring it back. But it's earned, and they need to operate in a financially responsible way, because you don't deserve anything.
David, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for all your sterling work today. Featured full length on the first show, and you're there right at the end as well, like I am. That's what it's all about. David, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your evening. You're looking very smart. Toodaloo. Take care. So there we are. We have pretty much reached the end of our show here on The Athletic UK. I did want to just keep you posted on what is going on with those two Watford players, because I'm really interested in it, even if you're not. I'm sure all the Watford fans that are watching are. It looks like Nathaniel Chalobah and Domingos Quina are going to be heading from Watford to Fulham. And I'm just hearing, actually, that we can actually hear from Daniel Sheldon, who is our Southampton reporter. And we brought you that news a few moments ago about Michael Obafemi leaving Southampton and joining Swansea. And Daniel Sheldon has been following that story very, very closely indeed. And it's interesting that some of these stories, they break soon after the deadline has passed at 11 o'clock. And there will be announcements tomorrow morning when things get done, when the deal sheets have already been in, everything's been ratified, and then they get to do their announcement videos and all that sort of stuff. So I think we can speak to Dan Sheldon, not at the moment. We may try and get him in a few moments' time. There is just one other little update to bring you. Just confirmation of the Roma goalkeeper, Robin Olsen, has joined Sheffield United on loan in the Championship. They've made a couple of good signings under Slavisa Jokanovic. Have Sheffield United this transfer window as they try and get back into the Premier League. Slavisa Jokanovic has done it before, of course, with Watford. He's got them up. He's got Fulham up. And he will hope now to get Sheffield United up as well. Just quick confirmation of one of the other deals that went through pretty close to the 11 o'clock deadline. And it was a big deal for Everton. If you've missed it, it was Salomon Rondon joining Everton. And much to the disappointment, I would have thought, of Newcastle fans seeing the reunion between Rafa Benitez and Salomon Rondon now at Goodison Park. I think we are going to leave it there, and we will pause for a moment and just grab a word with Daniel Sheldon. I was almost just going to go off there then, but let's bring him in. Daniel Sheldon, our Southampton reporter, who stayed up late and has been able to break that news regarding Michael Obafemi. And we can talk about Southampton's transfer dealings as a whole in a moment's time. But has that deal for Obafemi leaving and going to Swansea come as a surprise to you, Daniel?
Evening, Adam, and great job today. I've been following all of these. No, it's not. They've been keen to find him a buyer since his move to Blackburn fell through earlier this month. There's been many clubs interested across the Championship, but it's about finding the right one for him. And Michael and his agent have obviously done that today with Swansea. So, yeah, no surprise whatsoever.
And as a whole, I mean, it's been a different transfer window, hasn't it, for Southampton? It's almost like a change of approach there under Ralph Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, so it was. I reported a piece earlier in the week where they had a senior leadership meeting earlier this year and decided that perhaps they should change their strategy. If they can't compete financially with the clubs around them, they have to do the next best thing and target England's best youngsters, and that's what they've tried to do with Tino Livramento, who's come in and hit the ground running, and Thierry Small, who they've signed from Everton. Two really highly thought of players, and many clubs are interested in them. So yeah, they're thrilled with their business. And as a whole, I think if you look at it as across the whole summer, they've got rid of all the players they wanted to get rid of are gone, and they've made many signings that now boost Ralph's squad, and that's exactly what he wanted at the start of the window.
Sounds like he's done a good job. It will be very, very interesting to see as we head into the winter and beyond if that business done in the summer does the business for Southampton this season and avoids them getting sucked into a relegation scrap at the bottom of the table. Obviously, we don't wish that for Southampton or for you, Daniel, either.
Thank you.
Daniel, really appreciate you coming on so late at 26 minutes past 11. 26 minutes after the deadline in the UK passed at 11 o'clock. Daniel, thank you very much indeed. Let me just quickly remind you that obviously, if you're watching Transfer Deadline Day for the very, very first time, wherever you are in the world, there'll be people over in the States and all over the world watching on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook as well, that although the deadline has passed at 11 o'clock, if the clubs manage to get their paperwork in by 11 o'clock, they're able to buy themselves a little bit of extra time up until midnight if it's an international transfer. So they'll have, 33 minutes to go to get that deal done. Or if it's a domestic transfer, like the ones we were talking about with Watford and Fulham, they have until 1 o'clock in the morning to get that deal done. And just a quick word about one of the deals that they have managed to get in. Phil Hay has said that paperwork has been submitted for Costa. That's Helder Costa to join Valencia. It will be a season-long loan with an option to buy, but it does still need approval from the Spanish Football Association. So yes, there's cross-border agreements that need to be done as well. But obviously, if you are doing a UK deal, you need to get your information in, the paperwork in, and that needed to have been done before 11 o'clock. I'm going to be going to bed this evening thinking about deal sheets. I can tell it. I can tell now already if I ever get to sleep. Yeah, so maybe deals breaking all the way up until 1 o'clock this morning. And the Athletic news team, I'm not necessarily sure if they'll be all the way here until 1 o'clock. I think they might have to be. Oh, yeah, it's been a long old day. But obviously, beyond deadline day, we will still be here covering all the news, the fallout from the transfer window, the big moves that have happened, just digging into how they came about. And then, obviously, when they start playing again, be able to bring you all the analysis and insight from our team of reporters, which I'd just like to say thank you very much to everyone for coming on today, for sharing their wisdom with all their live interviews and guests in the studio. And yeah, it's been thoroughly enjoyable. And just a reminder, if you aren't part of The Athletic already and you haven't subscribed, check out that link at the bottom of your screen there, theathletic.com/live show, and then you can become part of The Athletic family. So that is it for Transfer Deadline Day here at The Athletic UK. I look forward to it already. I'm already looking forward to doing all of this again in January. Oh, after a little bit of a rest and dreaming of deal sheets. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. All the best. Thank you from everyone at The Athletic.